every goddamn week.
Welcome to Every Goddamn Week. I'm Chris LaRose, and my guest this week is Megan O'Neill. And if you're watching this on video, you can see the two of us. We've got our headphones on. Truly the way of the podcast. It's cool because you can hear yourself talking.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Already. With film, you're not supposed to look directly at the camera. I feel like I've already broken that rule.
No, it's fine. It's a podcast.
Okay.
Podcasting is a different thing. So Megan O'Neill lives with me. We have a pet dog together. You do the math. We've been together
How many years?
6 years.
Yes.
Yes. And this week we're talking about I'm breaking new ground because I'm talking about something that's not a movie.
Yes.
It's an album by the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
I've been kind of into the Beatles lately.
Oh my goodness, you all have no idea.
Yeah, but I'm getting you into it too. You got to admit that.
I think your intense interests become contagious after a little while. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take
it's like
it.
The Shining. Chris really likes the movie The Shining.
Yeah.
And now I really like it.
You bought a board game based on The Shining.
Or maybe
recently.
I'm just really easily influenced.
Maybe. Or I'm just an influencer.
Oh, God.
And watch out,
the last
audience.
thing your
You're
ego
about to get influenced. But yeah, we're talking about Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And it's a great album. It's a great one to break tradition and talk about music from
Yeah.
here.
It's a new thing for you.
But yeah, would you agree it's a really great album?
Yeah.
Good. Because, yeah, I know that. Because as you said, as we were listening to it, you were like, they're all bangers. And I've never heard you say that out of, like, breakfast context, like bangers and mash. Is that even a breakfast?
I think I'm getting really influenced by TikTok.
That sucks.
Yeah. I think my vocabulary might be changing.
Oh, it's too bad.
That's what you want.
Let's get into the podcast, though.
Okay.
TikToks aside, I'm not anti-TikTok. I don't
You
go
thought
on
about
there.
putting Momo, our dog, on the
That's
TikTok.
true.
Wow, I sound like an old
If
lady.
you follow my Instagram, you've seen pictures of Momo. At least, well, I only post once a week when I promote the podcast. So far, so you would have seen a picture of me and Momo cuddling
Yeah.
that you took. But yeah, anyway, Sgt. Pepper. So
Yeah.
before we get into Sgt. Pepper, before we even talk about the Beatles, we have to do the segment that I do every goddamn week on this podcast. Spoiler-free mini reviews. So I know what mine's going to be. Do you have one?
Well, you kind of stole mine.
Oh, shit. Oh, I stole yours. Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting because I said it and then you were like, good idea.
No, that's not how it was planned. I think we need to replay the
Whatever.
camera that
The
is
movie
on
is Yesterday. It's a movie. Okay, don't spoil. Whatever. In the trailer, you see like it's a guy who's like a hack musician. His career really isn't going anywhere. And then one day he wakes up and everything's the same except the Beatles never existed. And yeah, that's all I'll reveal. But it's really good. It's not. I thought it would be a little, I don't know, a little more serious, if that makes sense. But it's just like a lighthearted romantic comedy in the end.
Yeah,
But with like a really good
I
story.
thought it would take a really bad turn, and it didn't, and that made me really
You're
happy.
spoiling a little bit.
No, I
Okay.
didn't say anything.
I guess
You
not.
give away.
You're right,
full-
I'm filling in the
full
blanks as
plot
I've seen it.
lines. Chris is really bad at
This
giving-
segment that I invented?
Yeah.
I know. I admit it all the time. I suck at it. That's okay. Why did I create it? I don't know. It was like the
It's a
first
challenge.
episode, and I
It's a
just on the spot
challenge.
was like, let's try the challenge. Exactly.
I
It
like
gets
that
you
you keep
warmed
it
up
up.
for the real topic because you talk about something where you're just like, my brain. And then after that, it's all smooth sailing. Say whatever you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, yesterday, pretty good.
That's an excellent.
Recommended to me by Ted D, the guy who made the music for this podcast. Fun fact, go check him out. I should provide like an Instagram link or something so you can see what he's up to.
You should.
I forgot to do that last week. I'll add that in retrospect. Okay. Anyway, Ted D, great guy. And yesterday, great movie. I'd say it's a good like couple movie.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to watch it with a significant other, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah. There's something in it for everybody.
It's romantic, funny, dramatic, suspenseful.
Scary.
It's just a good movie. Scary.
World of the Beatles didn't exist. That's scary.
That is scary.
Yeah.
You would never listen to this podcast about the Beatles. But we're not in that universe. We're in the universe that is happening right now, which is we have all our notes. We got really into this shit. Like the other night, we were going to do a podcast, and we just ended up going down the rabbit hole and studying the Beatles.
I got so excited. I really wanted to do the podcast that night, but it was way too late. And now we both work 9 to 5 jobs.
Yes.
So we need to go to sleep on time.
Yes, but we have these evenings off so we can do more podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet.
Okay.
You can rope me into a topic next time. Gilmore Girls.
That'd be great.
I'm not watching Gilmore
Girls.
Girls.
I have to say about Gilmore Girls.
You have a lot to say about Gilmore Girls, I'm sure. I do too, just nothing positive.
It's so annoying.
Spoiler-free mini review. Gilmore Girls sucks. So Sgt. Pepper's Lonely
I'm boycotting this podcast.
No, you just
Bye,
started.
Everybody.
I know. I understand the appeal. It's simply not for me.
Fun fact: when Chris and I first started dating, he told me he liked Gilmore Girls.
I was lying. So Sgt. Pepper, very psychedelic album. Wouldn't you agree? Mm-hmm. That's why I wore this magic mushroom shirt. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like all tie-dye and it's got the sort of Amanita muscaria Mario mushroom on it. Mm-hmm. Not Mario, but you know,
pretty much Mario.
with the spots and shit.
Yeah.
And you have a nice dress on.
Yeah.
Much more classy than
Chris told me I looked like a little boy earlier.
Oh, because you had my hoodie on.
Yeah, I wanted to wear that, but I now apparently
I just
look a little
pictured
boy.
you looking at the video later and being like, why'd I wear that?
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Yeah.
Having it that comfy? And it's pretty hot in this room. I don't know why you need that. It's summertime. If you're listening or watching in the future, it's summertime.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Sgt. Pepper's was their 8th studio album.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
And at this point, they were not touring anymore. Mm-hmm. They were done with all that shit. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a magic album. It's magic in a lot of ways, but like, there's just a lot of stuff going on for the old Fab Four at the time. Who's your favorite Beatle? I know who your least favorite is.
Oh, it's so hard to pick. I still haven't done adequate research on George yet.
I showed you like 100 George videos.
No, but I need to know about his life.
Do you remember the one where there's this one where he's on a variety show or something, and they're going into the closing credits, and him and this band are all going to play a song together, and he cues it up so he's going to play like a Beatles song, and then he starts singing like, "Oh, I want to be a pirate," and goes on from there about how he wants to fly the Jolly Roger, and all the other band guys are like, just whoever these musicians are like, what's this crazy Beatle doing?
The funnier part about this is that you sang, "Oh, I want to be a pirate," for the next several days.
It got stuck in my head pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's a jolly little song, and it made me happy.
Jolly.
I like seeing George Harrison happy, except for that one album cover, Cloud 9, where he has those sunglasses on. I showed you this. Look it up. George Harrison, Cloud 9. He's got sunglasses
Include a
on.
little photo.
Huh?
You should include
Oh,
a
yeah.
photo.
Here you go. There it is. But yeah, if you're not watching this thing we're presenting right now, then he's got like this sort of Hawaiian shirt on,
Oh gosh,
and he's playing like a Stratocaster, and it's just like
it's bad.
just like dad on coke.
Oh, the 80s.
That's what it looks like to me.
Oh boy.
I like George Harrison a lot. For the record, I
Who's
just
your
think that
favorite Beatle?
record was. I don't know. Thank you for asking. Probably Paul. I always come back to Paul. I love all those guys, but like John's so complicated. You learned a lot of stuff about him recently.
Holy
It was
smokes.
pretty unsavory. Yeah, nasty guy, right? I knew some of that stuff. I didn't know all of it.
I didn't write down everything, so I'm feeling a little.
It's okay. But for context, we're talking about like John hit his wife and tried to strangle her to death, and
Did that happen?
yeah, because
God.
remember he tried to strangle her because he was jealous or something. He was very paranoid.
Oh, at the restaurant. that
There you
guy.
go.
All of my searches have been.
And he neglected his son, and
Oh, that was the worst part.
yeah, but it's like I don't know. That's
When
part of
he
being a rock
died,
star.
Like his will had like nothing for them.
That's right. Well, we're here to talk about Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And what we've learned is I like Paul and George. No mention of Ringo yet on the podcast.
Ringo!
And John's an asshole. We love Ringo, right?
Yeah.
He's the most huggable one.
I think he's like, you just can't fault him
No.
from what I know so far.
Solid guy.
Yeah.
Solid guy. We'll get into that. Let's just talk about the album, and
Okay.
we can get into these little this and that's as we go. So we're doing it in classic every goddamn week fashion, beginning to end. So let's start. Track 1. By the way, this is I haven't checked the official track listing. We did not listen to this on vinyl like hipsters. We played it on YouTube on our television.
We almost listened to it on vinyl.
How?
We were passing the record store.
Oh yeah, and we were like, we should do it, and then we didn't know. We went and drank giant mojitos.
Yeah.
3 ounces of booze in a mason jar giant mojito.
Chris is motioning too large right now. They weren't that big, guys. No.
People are listening to this. They're not all watching the video. You don't have to. I mean, you don't have to tell
why
them.
would you not watch with all your flailing hand and arm motion?
Thank you. You're right. People should watch
Yeah.
and like and subscribe and share and I don't know, buy ads for me.
Sounds good.
I can't be fucked. I'm drinking Electric Unicorn beer
I'm drinking
Phillips.
BC water.
from the hose.
What?
I don't know.
Now I've got a reputation, Chris. Thanks.
I just think it'd be funny to like brew a beer and say it's like brewed with genuine Canadian hose water or something like that.
I think that's a good
Genuine.
idea. There's a beer you can start.
The genuine.
Yes. You're on to something, Chris. Okay,
had a few of
first
these.
track. Tell me what it is.
It's called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Shall we sing it? With Sgt. Pep. Oh, you don't want to?
I don't know the words.
Fine. Well,
You put
it's pretty
me on the
dope. So it
spot.
starts off. Hold on. It starts off with like ambient crowd sounds, like no. That's later. Ambient, just like murmuring, and then you start to you can hear the instruments tuning up, but it sounds like you can hear. I don't know. You can hear. Sure. That's exactly right. Go listen to the album. So yeah, some tuning up, and then the sweetest riff starts the album. Do you know? where it's like ka-jung, jung, 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 doodly-doo.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Have you heard this album?
No, I've never heard it. I just walked into your room.
Well,
here.
that's funny that you can't immediately think of the riff, because for me, that was what hooked me into the album, was when I heard this riff.
Well, I think it's important too to remember that the Beatles, I mean,
or whatever you want to call that.
on the background sometimes when I was growing up, but it wasn't hugely popular. It's not ingrained in my brain.
That's the thing. Like, I grew up, the Beatles were always like on when I was very young, or like I just remember everyone knew who the Beatles were, and if I talked to
knew.
adults and I mentioned the Beatles, they knew what I was talking about, and we could kind of have a conversation. I remember a guy had marbles where you'd look inside, and they had pictures of the Beatles on them, and like, just, you know, it was just part of my world.
On
but
what music your parents listen to.
yeah, but like, I mentioned this to my dad because I couldn't remember if it was like a big thing for him, and he's like, "Oh, it was always background." I think he's like a little too young, which is weird because he's so old. But like,
You're horrible. Oh, Chris.
No, but like he is like a little too young to kind of, I don't know. It's not like he was a teenager when this album came out. Like he was like, tripping out on acid and listening to Sgt. Pepper when it first came out. Unless he was like a really cool 8-year-old.
Oh boy.
Just like the hippest hippie 8-year-old in Trail, BC.
This
But I doubt it. So like,
advisory.
but I mentioned it to him. I mentioned it to a bunch of people around his age too, that I happen to know, and they were all like, "No, the Stones, man." I was always about the Stones. It's like a consistent thing, kind of like a point of pride. And I used to say that stuff too, like kind of like, "Now the Stones are more tough," so like, or something. I don't know. There's just something. They played live. They still playing live. Like they don't, you know, they're strong. There's something about that that's like, and then just recently I was like, nah, I'm not too cool for the Beatles. I'm not too tough for the Beatles. I like the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking love the Beatles.
Yeah.
I'm crazy about the Beatles
He
right now.
listens to them day and
Magical
night.
Mystery Tour was what got me back into them. And then when I listened to that 1,000 times, I was like, time to really sink my teeth into Sgt. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do it, goddammit.
Yeah,
I knew there would be a
let's
lot of
get to
preamble for this one because the Beatles is a big subject. One other quick recommend before we really get into the tracks. Oh, shit. What's it called? It's called that Paul McCartney live thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm just going to look it up. Something at Abbey Road. Let's guess it. Creation and Chaos at Abbey Road.
What?
It's something like that. Hold on.
Zebras at Abbey Road.
Paul McCartney, Chaos and Creation at Abbey Road. It's like Professor Paul McCartney teaches you about music. It's really awesome. It's like there's a crowd and it's live, but he's just quickly showing you a ton of cool stuff. He whips out cool instruments that like maybe like Elvis's guy was playing, or it's just a really nifty instrument that was on Sgt. Pepper. Go check it out.
Yeah.
So Sgt. Pepper, yeah. So we got an ambient crowd, that guitar bit that I really like, and then a whole bunch of kind of intro to the album where they're queuing it up in this really neat way where it's like, the whole point of this album is that it's like, we're not the Beatles, we're Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's an alter ego for the band. Very psychedelic, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you don't have to be yourself, just let your imagination
Well,
go.
that was Paul's idea for that.
Paul, this is very much Paul's album.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he's my favorite right now.
But there were some surprises along the way.
That's
A
true.
lot of John songs.
A lot of John. Well, yeah, and they're like a duo.
Yeah.
But their story is very interesting with this album. Like, I feel like this was them coming together in a really cool way, where they had been sort of distant for a little while.
I didn't see that part
Um,
in my research.
well, we'll go through the tracks. There's one in particular where I feel like they really, I don't know, like they've stated it themselves, like that they really like connected in a way that they weren't at the time up until anyway.
Well, a lot of like crazy stuff going on too.
Oh, yeah,
that will
of course.
bond you alone.
They're the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they've gone through a lot. And this is sort of like this weird moving on kind of thing. That's really far away from your mouth.
I feel like it's too close to me. Sorry.
Yeah, whatever makes you happy. As long as you can hear yourself in your headphones.
I kind of sound echoey. Is that
There's a
normal?
little bit of latency on here.
Okay.
Good stuff, huh, audience? I wonder if the Beatles ever had to deal with latency. Probably.
Anyways, let's go back to the album.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, for God's sake, let's actually like rip through these.
You're the one
and
who keeps bringing up sidetrack topics.
have you listened to this podcast before?
It's all sidetrack topics.
I like to talk about.
We're gonna rename
stuff.
your podcast.
But like I said, like we are talking about the Beatles here, and there's a lot of stuff to cover. So let's.
You're gonna hear a lot of random details from me, especially about John's personal life.
I can tell you're eager to spit those out.
I don't remember any of them. I have to rely solely on my notes from Monday. It's now Wednesday.
Oh. Nah, you'll remember. The really important ones. You'll feel it in your gut. Yeah, so what I really like about this opening track is like it just sort of is like gently lifting you into this weird imagination land where the Beatles are no more. You can see them on the album cover and it sort of looks like a funeral for the Beatles. That's how I interpret it. I'm not the only one. Where it's like the flowers spell out the Beatles and like the wax figure, like old in the suits version of the Beatles are like looking down kind of mournfully. And you're looking at me shocked like you've never...
I never thought of that.
We didn't really look into the...
I thought it was just like all the Beatles throughout the ages. Check them
No.
out.
No, you got to look at more at the cover because there's like Aleister Crowley and
I haven't read
like
that.
Marlon Brando and like it's just all over the place. Crowley's an interesting one, or Crowley, as some say, because this opening track starts. Well, yeah, it basically it goes. I want to get this right. It was 20 years ago today. Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play. 20 years before this album came out, Aleister Crowley died. So there's a theory that like, and he's like top left in the sky, like pretty prominent on the album cover. I always see him, his big bald head. So maybe there's something to that. I don't know. There's certainly like something magical and mysterious about the Beatles. And maybe they did do some thelemic magic in their
What
day.
if their life is the movie Yesterday? What if they never wrote any of those songs?
Whoa. And really they're just Sgt. Pepper? Oh, yeah. So here they are reinventing themselves as Sgt. Pepper. But Paul's whole thing was like, there were all these bands. He was very inspired by American stuff and like they all were. And the hippies were really the thing now. So like, and there were these bands coming out that had like old timey cowboy is kind of how Paul described it, names that sounded sort of like just old, I don't know, old timey. Like, I mean, fuck, one of these songs are based on like an old circus poster, being for the benefit of Mr. Kite. So there are these bands that sounded like Simpson and Son, you know, Boner Tonic or whatever. You know, they just have that like old, you know, drawn out sort of like, poster on an old saloon sort of feel to them. And so he wanted that like old timey, you know, traveling band kind of feel, which is very Paul McCartney. Yeah, and then Sgt. Pepper, which is like there was like S&P on their like airplane meal, and they were like, what does that stand for? And I was like, Pepper, Sgt. Pepper. It's stupid, but there's that like sense of randomness and silliness, but then with this like aesthetic of old timiness, like turn of the century, like 19th into the 20th century you just look at their hair and style, like John Lennon, even with the glasses and stuff, it kind of has this cowboy thing, but psychedelic, you know, funny colors and stuff. So I like how they introduce it really from like the ground up here, where, you know, my favorite line in this song is where it's like, I'll probably fuck it up, but it's like, well, I didn't mean to stop the show, but I really want to let you know that the singer's gonna sing a song, and he'd like you all to sing along. I'm like, what is this? Like
Chris
children's theater?
Chris, whenever he does this impression, he always just bursts out laughing. I'm surprised you got that far.
It never made me laugh until recently, and then just something clicked where I was just like, oh, the singer's gonna sing a song, is he? Like, yeah, no shit. But then they introduce Billy Shears, who's not a real person. The theory among fans is that Paul is dead. This is one of the first urban legends that I ever heard as a kid, from a book that I should not have been reading.
Conspiracy theory.
Sure. Yeah, kinda. But the whole idea was Paul is dead, and it's hinted at throughout this album. And one of them was that like Billy Shears was like another singer who replaced Paul. But really, who's the real singer, Megan, of the next song?
You're putting me on the spot.
Oh, sorry. I thought you'd be excited to answer.
I don't know the answer.
What? You don't know who sings I Get By With a Little Help From My Friends?
Ringo!
Yeah!
I was really surprised by this, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know he sang at all.
He sings... Doesn't he sing like Yellow Submarine?
Really?
I think so.
What?
Maybe I'm wrong. He sings a few songs. We're experts.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he sings I Get By With Little Help From My Friends. And it leads really well into that song, obviously, because they're like, let me introduce to you the one and only Billy Shears. And then it cuts to I Get By With a Little Help From My Friends, which starts Billy Shears. And then it's Ringo, and he just sings his little song. There was a deleted line here, if you remember. He refused to sing the original lyrics because it said, it was like, what would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you get up and throw tomatoes at me? Something like that. And he remembered a time when fans found out that he liked Jelly Baby candies, and they would chuck them at his head while he was trying to play the fucking drums.
How does that help him? Like, he loves Jelly Belly.
You don't understand the mania. How does screaming help the Beatles play? It doesn't. Mania. It's just people being like,
and actually, it was okay.
Sorry. It's all right. My arms are huge, and there's this spring.
You're a very demonstrative talker. I don't use my hands at all. Yeah, this album came out in the height of Beatlemania. It was.
Yeah, and it was an uncertain time for them. Mm-hmm. So.
Actually,
a lot of energy.
I'm wrong. It was when Julian was born, which is actually earlier than this. That it was Beatlemania really kicked in, and they had their American tour. And
when it kicked in, yeah.
I don't know if it was the height of Beatlemania.
I wouldn't say the height. Actually, I think their sales were dwindling at this point, and they needed something. Like they had pressure on them when this album was being made. So they made this crazy thing. So many factors, like them wanting to be different, John going out of his fucking mind, Paul taking acid.
Influences from Indian culture.
Yeah.
They had done that trip over there.
I'm sure Ringo was going through something, or
I want to know more about Ringo.
Maybe he developed as a person at some point. It sounds like I'm making fun of Ringo, but not really. I think he's the most solid guy in the band, in a way.
He had a tough
he's the
life
glue
growing
that
up.
holds it all together. He does. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And they say that this annoying joke, this meme that's been out there for a long time, that he's the luckiest man in show business, is not true. He was picked by the Beatles. They got rid of their old drummer, and they picked him. So he's not lucky. He's a good fucking drummer. And he's a really unique drummer, and his sense of timing and feel is really special.
I think
to say
he's
the
a
least.
good friend because
Definitely.
I think he actually, I think I read that he was the only one who was able to maintain a friendship with John,
Whoa.
like during the Yoko times.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just doesn't. It just doesn't get to him. He's just like, why?
He's just
He's weird, but
gonna
not
keep
that
being
weird.
your friend.
He's just a cool guy.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing I can say about him is his take on food, which is like, makes you think. The thing where he's like, you shouldn't eat cows because they're too big and their molecules are too big and your body won't. Like, oh, whatever, man.
I don't know if that was a joke or
A little tongue in cheek. He's
But-
very. They're all cheeky, but
So
Anyway.
what do you think about the song?
I get by with a little help from my friends. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's very happy. This whole. We've been talking about vibes a lot lately, and maybe that's because we've been listening to this album because it's very like just good vibes. It's not just good songs; it's good vibes. Like Ringo singing a little song about how he appreciates his friends.
Well, I can tell you about one person that did not like this song. A
Satan.
little known guy named Spiro Agnew.
Oh, which of course you think of Futurama.
I can only envision the Futurama version. I have no idea what this man really looks like.
I've seen his face, but you think of Nixon. You don't generally
Yeah.
think of Agnew.
But he said it was a tribute to the power of illegal drugs.
Okay. Well, I mean, he's not totally wrong. Like,
John claimed it wasn't.
but LSD, like, if it weren't for the CIA, wouldn't be out there. So, fuck you, Agnew. Because a lot of that's probably based on just a total misunderstanding. Because they were banning a lot of these songs for things like heroin slang. And while at least John had done some heroin, but I think that was later.
Well, I think there was a lot of fear going on.
Yeah, the war on drugs is
Yeah.
a pretty big factor. But anyway, good vibes. Positivity. So Billy Shears comes out and fairly standard arrangement I wrote, kind of like sets it up because the instruments get pretty nuts on this album, to say the least. And at this point, you're getting a fairly straightforward song, but with like this mysterious Billy Shears guy. Who could that be?
I didn't
Ringo.
even catch that when I listened to it.
First time I listened to this album, I wasn't paying attention enough. I didn't get a lot of this stuff. But then I was like cleaning the bathroom the other day and listening to it, and I was like, oh. A lot of time to really pay attention. So, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Now, you were never a stoned teenager. You never did that stuff.
Certainly not.
But I was, and I did. And being a stoned teenager, walking around high as fuck, listening to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds on your Discman or your old-fashioned MP3 player or whatever, pretty good, pretty fun. Listening to it with friends, even better. Good times, you know, because everyone's got their lyrics that they like the best, I think. Like, what's like a lyric that stands out? Can you think of one?
I'm sorry, whenever I think of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, I'm going to have to look up which comedian this was. But they were talking about their parents arguing about the lyrics.
Oh.
And was it like Lucy, or is it Lucy is in a fight with Lionel? Or
Lucy's in a fight with Linus.
Linus, yes. Yeah.
The girl with colitis goes by. Stuff.
I really need to look into it.
I remember that in high school too.
It
It's
was
like
so great.
one stone guy to another sings that, and the other one's just like, "Wow, you could just come up with that."
But yeah, the song originated, as many know, from Julian Johnson. Not that he wrote it, but he came home with a picture of a girl named Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
And that inspired John
See-
to...
That was how I found out about the songs. My dad told me that. Maybe he is a fan. But yeah, like that's one of those you can interpret it a lot of different ways because obviously LSD is sort of the
I never
Lucy
knew any
Sky
of this
Diamonds.
before.
You ever heard of that?
I never looked into any of this.
No one's ever
And-
like given you a tab and been like, "You want some Lucy?"
No.
Okay. But yeah. Julian's drawing in nursery school. And John actually denied this and all drug references on the album, which is a little suspect because this is a psychedelic fucking album and they were all doing drugs. They were doing drugs from the beginning, to be fair. They were doing like diet pills.
John was really going for the LSD during this time.
Yeah, he was incoherent.
Yeah,
with
he
his
was
wife,
having it
Joan.
on a daily basis. That is insane.
That'll melt your brain. And it features George's tambura. So you're starting to get into the weirder instruments here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that do 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 do. I'm doing it wrong.
It's totally
I'm trying to remember how the melody of the fucking song goes. Just that opening, whatever the hell that is. It's so otherworldly.
trying to think. I don't know.
My favorite lyric, for some reason, newspaper taxis appear on the shore.
That's
It
cool.
always conjures interesting visions for me.
I'd like to revisit this album looking at the lyrics a little closer. I feel like you got a good deep dive into that.
Yeah, you should. You get because the more you chew on them, the more kind of funny stuff you find because they're so
Yeah.
weird, and some of them are so mundane too. We'll get to some of that as we go. Let's talk about getting better. I sing this one a lot. We were singing this earlier.
Yeah.
It just gets stuck in your head, and then you start singing it, and then someone else starts singing, and you start dancing in formation. So this is like classic Paul McCartney. Like you think of him, you think of like a simple song, like with a pretty clear premise, and it's very positive, right? And I like the origin of the song. Paul thought of the title while walking his sheepdog, Martha, in London's Regent Park. Inspired by spring, and that's right. And this one time where Ringo was sick or had surgery or something, and he had a replacement for some shows. And the replacement was like pretty overwhelmed by the fans. And Paul asked him after a while, like how it was going and how he was learning to take it. He said, it's getting better. And so he had some incident with like a publicist or something, like some journalist, someone who was writing about him. And he asked him a question about whatever. And Paul was like, oh, it's getting better. Like the weather's getting better. And then that reminded him of the story. And then he told the guy, and now it's ours to enjoy.
It's a great song.
Paul is like the purest guy. we were talking about how great Ringo is, but like, come
I
on.
didn't know any of this. I think growing up, there was a lot of, I don't know, there was some mixed media going on, mixed media reviews with him.
Mixed. Oh, okay.
Like, I just
Mixed
remember
reviews.
him, like, not being preferred. Like, he's kind of,
Blakey.
I don't know, but I really like him.
Me too.
He's a great guy.
People talk about John like he's the great genius of the band, and I'm like, I'm not saying he wasn't a genius, but and that he didn't write a million amazing songs. Of course he did, but like Paul is like, I'm so glad that he's still out there doing his thing, and I hope he can play live and come here.
Could they have like stuck together without Paul? Like if it was like,
you can't remove any element, or it's just not the
No.
Beatles. But
I don't know. I think he was vital to it.
I think so too. But yeah, getting better. Super happy. Like when I'm in a good mood, I sing this song. I was at work the other day. I think I told you, and I was like, taking screws out, and I was just like really happy while I was doing it. And there's a part of the song where it's like, I'm doing the best that I can, and like just at that part, I took out the screw and it flew up in the air and I caught it. And I went, doing the best, and took out another one.
Oh boy.
Funny backing vocals. Yeah, so I don't know if they affected the vocals, if they sped them up at all. There's more obvious weird vocal fuckery on like Magical Mystery Tour and on other tracks on this album. But I just love the kind of like high pitched, I don't know how many guys are singing the like backup vocals, where it's like, I used to get mad at my school, and then like, oh no, how does it go?
Oh, does it like go like ooh, ooh.
Oh, I can't complain.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. The teachers that taught me weren't cool. Oh, I can't complain.
I love that.
Yeah. Ah, fools! Like it's so. It's just like you're laughing. Like it makes you delighted.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. That's how I feel about that. You know. Well, I didn't mean to stop the show. Like it has that same silly, jolly, fun. I don't know. It lifts your heart. It's great. Mm-hmm. It makes you happy. I need this stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. Listen to this album on the way to work tomorrow.
But actually, to be a little bit of a downer, sorry. I'm sorry. But with that song, Getting Better, there's
Yes.
the whole part with John.
What?
You're...
Oh, yes. But this has a happy ending. So John has a bad trip, basically. They're at the studio. They are, you discovered this. It was all night recording. They just record all night. Pretty dope. Kind of lends to my theory of this whole thing as like some kind of weird magic with a K kind of thing. I don't know. But there is something funny that happens when you create at night or do anything at night. But, you know, you go nuts. You're kind of in the dream world.
But you know what also makes you go nuts? Taking LSD when you think you're taking something else.
Right. So John, to stay up, he was bagged. He's like, oh, you know what I gotta do? I gotta reach into my Art Deco. I gotta reach into my Art Deco little thing here. Or I wrote down who cares? I'm gonna take out a little capsule and place it on my tongue like this. And he swallowed it, thinking it was amphetamines. But it was LSD. So yeah, pretty shitty. And then it hit him and he was like, oh fuck. Because if you think you're just gonna get like some pep in your step, the old amphetamine magic that just, I mean,
Is that fart? No.
that just farts some pep into your step. No, but these guys were taking like uppers their whole career, basically.
Yeah.
Like when they were young, they'd give them these diet pills, which would help them zip through. And so when you see them and they're like really peppy and stuff, it's kind of like, oh, I see why that.
Didn't they do that to Judy Garland too?
I always think of that. And I'm like, well, Judy couldn't handle her shit. No, but it's very different. It's very different. Very different. Very
Anyways,
different. I'm not saying they're the same thing at
all.
all. That's a way more nightmarish scenario than just like four bros doing drugs together.
John accidentally takes LSD.
He accidentally takes LSD. They say he's like not feeling well or whatever, or he's, I don't know.
The other Beatles know what's happened.
Do they at this point?
I think they have some inkling of it.
George Martin doesn't know.
No, he doesn't know, and they've told him that he's sick.
So he's the fifth Beatle. He's like the producer, and he played some instruments on this album. So that's alien to him. He doesn't know what the fuck that is. And then John goes up on the roof with George Martin.
George took him onto the roof.
George Martin took him up on the roof. Yeah. And he didn't know what was going on. He just was like, it was like he was in slow motion, slowly walking up the stairs. They get to the roof, and then the other Beatles go like, wait a minute, you know what we just did? Because, like, you just let a guy on acid go up on the roof. It's like, gee, maybe don't do that. And then he stepped up on the parapet or whatever.
The ledge.
Yes, I guess. And
I don't know what
I don't even know if I'm using the right word. And he was saying, like, the stars are so beautiful and stuff. And the other Beatles, when they realized what they'd done, were like, fuck, let's go get him. And they go up on the roof, hoist his ass, and I just assumed they just carried him on their shoulders, and he was like, beautiful, beautiful. and he had his granny glasses on and everything, and he was like, I'm the walrus, and off they go, and back down, and then they all agreed, like, look, John, you sit this one out, and we'll just do it on our own, and they were like, no, this sucks. Let's just call it a night. And so they sent him. He was just going to walk home on his own. Mm-hmm. And Paul, great friend, was like, oh, why don't I walk you home there, John?
Oh my God.
I've got one of my weird little instruments here. I'm playing a funny bass. I play it the wrong way. I love Paul. Anyway, so he walks him home, and then Paul's like, oh, I've got a crazy idea just now. I've never done LSD with old John. This seems like a good night to do it,
I think this is his first time taking LSD.
No, he had taken LSD before, but never with John.
Oh.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. But I think I think it's coming to me now. In a later interview, I think he said something like, I won't do the accent. He said something like, it was never my thing, really. I don't like getting that weird. I think that's how he said it. But this time I was like, this seems like the time to do it with John. And so they did, and they hallucinated a bunch, and they had a really great time. And I think, it really brought them together, and the McCartney-Lennon powerhouse songwriting engine was really back, on all cylinders, I think, at that point. And it's what makes this album really special. Mm-hmm. Part of it. Everyone, if you look at the personnel, who did what on this track, everyone did hand claps. I think that's pretty nice.
That's great. I don't think I could be qualified for that.
Oh, and John added some stuff here because it's Paul's song, but here you go. John added the I used to be cruel to my woman. I beat her and kept her from doing the things that she loved, blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
And I heard that and thought, I remember thinking, I was like, this sounds like I'm pretty sure this is like a Paul McCartney written song, but this sounds like it's straight out of John's life. And lo and behold, it was, according to the internet.
Holy smokes. The relationship that John had with his wife at the time, Cynthia.
Yeah. Bad.
So many ways messed up. So many ways. And I'm sure maybe what I read is one-sided.
Yeah, and it's probably based on like biographies that are maybe colored in.
Well, she's
spots.
Released a lot of stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
I believe it. No, like his character is made pretty clear throughout a lot of accounts.
When you look at his childhood, it explains a lot. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics because I just read it out to you from Wikipedia.
Yeah, I know.
But
we were going, it was like during like a deep dive, you were just like shouting stuff out. But basically his dad wasn't around a lot. He was working a lot.
And his mom. So he was raised by his Aunt Mimi.
That's right, Mimi. Yeah. She was like more strict and she could give him structure.
His mom still was in and out and like gave him his first guitar and like all this stuff. But Dad was, what did he do? He was like a merchant sailor, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, gosh, I need notes. This is why I can't do anything without notes.
But rough childhood, and then, but then on top of that, it's sort of like it's interesting to follow his journey as, and LSD plays a part because it like his ego was protecting him, and then I really started getting the picture more as you were yelling these facts at me and stuff because I didn't have to think about the facts. I was just absorbing and the story seems to be to me like of a man who was very hard because of his upbringing, but was able to play it off casually and was witty enough. He's the witty one, right? John's the witty one? Isn't that what they called him?
You tell me these things. I don't know what.
Yeah, and then it sort of, through his experiences and growing up and then, you know, through trial and error and fucking up a lot and being a bastard and doing all this, and then LSD kind of softening his ego, and through music and through all these things, him trying to seek something bigger than himself. Eventually he escaped his own assholeness. I want to believe that anyway. I think he was still a little... It was always a battle between his soul and his ego.
I don't know if he really escaped that. I read something. Yeah, it wasn't his wife Cynthia he strangled. It was Mei Ping.
Right.
The assistant of him and Yoko. That he had like an affair with, that Yoko told her to do. Anyways.
Okay. All right. We can't get our facts straight on this, but John did some woman hitting and you know, he was violent to women. That's all we gotta. Let's move on. Oh, sorry. I didn't write the. Is it Fixing a Hole next?
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't write the title here. I love this song. Fixing a hole where the rain gets in, stops my mind from wandering. Paul's song, I think. He's playing the harpsichord.
And
so
maracas.
is George Martin. What's that?
And maracas.
A lot of maracas. You never really hear the maracas, but they're on a lot of tracks. George plays maracas. So there.
So this song was condemned because it was thought to refer to heroin.
Like holes in your arm.
Yeah. But Paul cleared this up and he said it's in fact a tribute to marijuana.
What?
That's what he said.
I didn't know that.
Apparently.
That's
don't know
a
how.
joke.
I don't know. I'm sure. They if you see them in interviews from that time, they're just
anytime.
Yeah. And I see why. Like people are asking dumb questions.
Yeah. And they're just too hip. They're just like, oh, you.
There was
guys.
a theory for a while that it was referred to the act of fixing Paul's farmhouse, but this was actually an event that happened after.
Okay.
So it was disproven.
Cool.
So marijuana.
It's a great
tribute.
song. And while they were recording this one, Jesus showed up.
My favorite.
You tell it.
I don't know. I just like vaguely read this story, but essentially I think it was Paul that answered the door.
Yeah, it was at his house.
Yeah.
Farmhouse, actually. Big farmer, this Paul. He likes rams. He's got a ranch.
Okay, Chris, we're not getting into that.
Ram ranch. Sorry. On track. So a guy shows up at Paul's house, claims to be Jesus Christ. And
he's looking disheveled. He's like,
yeah,
the
kind of guy that shows up at a farmhouse and says he's Jesus.
Yeah.
Christ. So Paul says, "Oh, why don't you come to band practice?"
He said it was funny because he was like, "Well, I didn't really want to let him in, but on the off chance that he actually is Jesus, you don't want to say no to Jesus." So he...
Good move.
Yeah. And so he said to him, as long as you stay quiet and you sit in the corner over there, you can
and he
stay.
Did. He did.
Yeah.
They recorded Fixing a Hole.
I
And
love that.
it's so weird.
Anything goes during this time, it seems.
Oh, it makes me think of like Stigmata. Jesus had holes in his hands and feet inside.
Yes.
So like fixing a hole, kind of weird.
Oh.
Yeah.
And Jesus was present.
That's right.
Do you think he sang backup vocals?
Maybe. Great song though. It's like groovy and leisurely, and a lot of these songs I like underestimate them at first, and I'm just like, good pop tune, good little rocker, whatever. And this is one where it's just like, again, like on the 100th listen or whatever, you'll just go like, oh wow, and it hits you, it affects you, or you realize that it's affecting you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I like repairing houses, so, you know.
New theme song.
But I like the lyric. I always think of the one that's like, I'm painting a room in a colorful way, so when my mind is wandering, there I will go. Because, I don't know. This isn't a good example on camera. You can only see the black curtain behind us because it makes us pop. But on this whole wall over here, there's funky shit. You step out in the hallway, there's a blue light. Because
we're too lazy.
That was for a party, and then we stuck with it. Well, it's kind of my fault because you were like, we should replace those. Like about 100 times you mentioned this, and I'm like, nah, blue's cool.
I just don't know how to remove the light fixture thing.
You don't have to take the fixture out. You just take the bulb out.
I know. I don't know how to remove. Anyways, whatever. We can talk about this later, Chris. Next song.
Well, it's easy. One guy climbs the ladder, and the other guy turns the ladder from the floor. So
next song is
Next
She's
Song.
Leaving Home.
Oh yeah, this one's really sad. For a while, I was skipping this one when I would listen to the album.
Oh.
Well, I just, not because I was like, I'm gonna cry, just because like I was like, I want to feel good. I don't want to be sad. But it's really good. And George and Ringo were not involved in this one.
What?
There's a few songs where it's just guys got left out.
Well, actually, I don't know if they weren't involved.
And it's an orchestra, so.
Yeah. Okay.
With a harp. A string orchestra. Sorry. What?
So it's thought that the song is about a girl who was in the news at the time, who left home and had been found later on, but essentially she left her car, she left her checkbook, she just, left it all behind from a well-off family, just went. I think the story actually was that this woman, Melanie Coe, went to go live with a friend in an apartment in another city for a while. She was 17 at the time. But yeah, she was all over the news at the time. There's a lot of songs based on like news articles.
News stuff. Yeah. Well, I read the news today, oh boy. Yeah. And like newspaper taxis and there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of like just feeding off media and stuff. And this whole thing is like a sort of defying the image. It's interesting watching those old interviews, years before this, where people are asking them about so many things based on their image, and they consistently are just like, you don't know us, like that's all they're not even dicks about it, and usually like Paul will just be like, oh well, nobody really knows us as people, they just know our image, so yeah. But and that's you creating an image of who we are. We're not doing that. It's you.
But you know what the funny part about that is? They, in that song, they really accurately actually portrayed the girl who left home. So she was saying, there's just like a few things.
She went out the back door. No, what do you mean?
Like they just got a few things wrong. I need the lyrics in front of me to identify what it was, but I think because she did return home. They don't.
Did she marry a guy from the motor trade?
No, but he did talk. Like Paul talked about how he kind of just like embellished and like just thought about a really sleazy guy And that was what he thought about.
His imagination's quick like that. It'll just fill in.
Yeah,
blanks.
but the woman who ran away from home, she said like she related a lot to the song at the time, and like she was like, "Oh, but they got that part wrong, so it's not about me."
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, who knows? Who knows? When was it written? I guess is a good question.
I'm not too sure.
I just like that Paul played it for Brian Wilson, and they cried. 'Cause
Can
it
I
was
say
so
more about
beautiful.
this woman for a second? Not that it's...
You don't know anything about her. I asked you for facts.
This is why we should have done the podcast on Monday.
You would have known everything? All right.
Yes.
All right.
Fresh in my brain.
Jeez.
Oh boy. Fun fact about Melanie Coe,
Yes.
because I know you're asking for them, is that she'd actually met the Beatles 3 years earlier during a miming contest.
Of course.
And she said Ringo was really nice. He let her try on his rings. Said that George was very personable. But John did not even acknowledge her. He was too busy talking to somebody.
Oh.
And then she said that Paul like acknowledged, but didn't.
It wasn't like all over. Or
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So it sounds like the real nice guys are Ringo and George.
I guess.
Anyways. I know
That's
this is
one
riveting.
incident. I don't.
is
I can't glean
riveting
much
stuff.
from that. But interesting. I don't know. I always throw it in the garbage whenever someone's like, "That song's about me." I'm like, "No, it's not."
Oh,
Go.
there's so many women that think that these songs
lovely
are-
Rita. Someone claimed to be the.
But Paul said that he was writing about this woman.
Okay.
True.
Okay. We'll get to that. We'll talk about that.
My sources are Beetle
Bible.
Beetle Bible
Bible.
and Wikipedia, so it has to be true.
Right. So she's leaving home. Paul and John sing on this one. Other guys, nah, not there.
Oh.
I wrote cool broken bit. I don't know what that means. There's a cool bridge or something. Whatever. The one thing that I always think of with this one, because I think Stanley Kubrick pulled a lot from Beatles music and lore and art, and other just ways of doing stuff. In A Clockwork Orange, which you have not seen because you don't want to watch it, understandable. There's a scene where Alex leaves home and the mom is crying, and the mom she calls Alex's dad, and in this song, there's that line where the mom calls the dad daddy, and I don't know, there's a lot of things where the more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe he kind of styled that, a lot of that movie, just the parents off of this. I don't know, maybe I'm nuts, maybe I'm crazy, but that whole movie is about group of 4 guys with Beatlesy haircuts in England, dressed the same, just destroying the old. And I don't know, there's a lot of themes you could.
Maybe they're the real Beatles.
Maybe.
Or Sgt. Pepper.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think Kubrick was heavily influenced by this album. And a little bit from Magical Mystery Tour. I mean, what is it, George, who's dressed like a dog? Or he's dressed like a rabbit. And he's got those big ears and stuff. And it looks like The Shining.
Is so scary.
It's freaky. It looks like the dog costume or whatever that is. Bear or whatever. It's in The Shining. Weird.
I
don't know. She's leaving home. It's very touching. It's beautiful. I have shed a tear or two over this song. If you're in the right mood, it's just man. If you're willing to go there. If I'm driving, I don't skip it. But
gotta pull over and cry one out, don't you?
yeah, with the guy in the car next to me, I'll be like, "Bro, get out of the car. We need to hug and cry right now."
I can see that.
Yeah, it could happen. So let's do one more song and then we'll take a little break. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
The next song is Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. Here's a fun fact. I had never heard this song until I saw the movie Across the Universe.
I still haven't seen that movie.
It's okay. The songs are great, but the movie's good. I mean, it's okay. It's fun. It's a fun experience, but I wouldn't really want to watch it again, honestly. Pretty sure Bono sings this song. So Bono ruins things. I have my own sort of love for U2 deep down somewhere.
It's got a deep love for U2.
I don't know. But Bono can really ruin things. I watched this Charles Bukowski documentary, and there's a part where Bono, acting very like a douchebag, he's reading a Bukowski poem, and he just ruins it. And I'm like, how'd you do that? Because he's like looking at the camera and like making it all about himself, and I'm like, no, it's not what it. You're fucked up.
But back to the Beatles.
Yeah, so the Beatles. For the Benefit of Mr. Kite is I always wondered, like, where the hell did they get this? Was this just like, it sounds like drug talk, which, so I get why all the drug insanity and fear came from this album. But
on a comment of like the music of the song, the first thing I wrote down as soon as the song started playing was Ghostly Circus.
Yeah.
And then as I'm doing research, I realized that, was it John that based it off of the 19th century circus poster?
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
It's cool.
It really comes through in the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll read that poster or part of it. Grandest night of the season, and positively the last night but 3, being for the benefit of Mr. Kite, late of Wells Circus, and Mr. J. Henderson, the celebrated Somerset thrower, wire dancer, vaulter, rider, etc., on Tuesday evening, February 14th, 1843. Pretty cool. Big letters. Yeah, John bought that in January 31st, 1967. Just fucking cool.
And this is a song that you're referring to in the beginning.
Yes.
That was banned by the BBC because of
Henry the Horse.
Yes.
Wow.
References apparently to heroin.
Well, I think my guess on this, because horse, sure, but Henry, I think is like Henry VIII. So it's like, you want to buy an eighth? I think that's
what you told me. I was like, wow.
That's the only time I've ever heard Henry used in a drug context.
Mindset.
Which is, sure, whatever. Very Cockney kind of. But I love this song. It's because circuses, that's like an archetype, you know. The circus is a very clear, that came through so clear to you and to basically anybody that hears this. I mean, that music, they have calliope music and all this weird stuff. John wanted a carnival atmosphere, of course. George Martin wanted to smell the sawdust on the floor. Fairground organs, calliope, blah, blah.
But where does like the ghostly
sped up Hammond organ. Ghostly?
I just feel like it's very
yeah, spooky. This is where like psychedelia like ties it all together for me, because I think a lot of people will see like circus stuff when they do DMT, and like there's a certain my take on that is that they're seeing the world, like society and humanity and our little things that we do for like the circus that it is. And the real benefit, I don't know. I can't throw this out because for me, it's like, again, I listen to this when I'm driving. And when I'm driving in the city, like downtown or really anywhere where it's just like the traffic and the infrastructure just make you go like, this is nuts. What are we doing? But hearing the circus music, I'm just sort of like, here we go again. Yeah, right, around the merry-go-round or whatever. It just has that. It changes the feel where I'm like, this is crazy, but it's for the benefit of Mr. Kite or whatever, because I don't know, it starts to fall apart at that point. But the archetype is there of like, like the world is a funny circus, and
Sure
you
is.
might be a monkey or a clown or whatever.
Yeah. All just part of a big old circus.
Yeah. And tonight, Mr. Kite is topping the bill.
And that's a good place to leave it off for our...
Yeah, well, hold on.
Okay.
Because I wanted to mention one really cool thing where George Martin was not happy with the chaotic sound. He was like not crazy enough. So he had the sound engineer cut up the tape of like all the circus sounds and stuff, throw all the pieces up in the air, and then they reattach them at random.
What?
Yes. And then they picked
How
a
does
section.
that even work?
What do you mean?
That's unreal.
Why wouldn't it work? You're going to get a lot of randomness, but that's part of it.
Holy smokes.
And I also wanted to mention a little, almost like a teaser. But going back to the theme with John here of like where he was at, and maybe not the best place, but he wrote this thing because he had to write something. He felt like he was under pressure and he needed to contribute to this album. And it was time to write. That's what he said. It was like just routine kind of thing. And he said he was very paranoid in those days. I could hardly move.
Mm-hmm.
And George and Ringo played harmonicas.
Yay! Harmonicas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just on the note of John not being able to move and the paranoia with all of his LSD, I know that there's a quote from Cynthia's ex-wife saying that the other Beatles just had this like innate ability to communicate with him when he was in those states, because he just wouldn't speak to anybody.
Whoa.
He was just in his own head.
There was bubble.
But yeah, like they just, not even always with words, but they just knew what he was feeling and what was going on.
Cool.
That's a real connection.
Sweet. Oh, and Paul says that it's his favorite bass line to play because it's challenging. Cool.
Cool.
Gotta pay more attention to that. Yeah, we'll pick this up later with the George Harrison Space Out magical spiritual tune, Within You, Without You. Bye.
Bye.
Every goddamn week. Every goddamn week. Every goddamn week.